I never thought betrayal could be a game, but when Hailey told me Lucas isn't my friend but my enemy, I realized my life would never be the same. My name is Ethan West, a second-year journalism student, and I thought I knew the people around me, thought my heart was safe, thought my girlfriend was my fortress. Hailey, she was always a mystery. Those green eyes that seemed to read your thoughts, and a smile that could confuse even the calmest student. We met in the first semester, and honestly, I felt like she remembered me immediately. She seemed perfect, but there was always a shadow of doubt I didn't want to see. Then came Lucas, my roommate, my childhood friend. We shared everything, secrets, money, even the worst jokes that no one else would understand. I trusted him more than myself. Everything seemed perfect until one evening. Hailey asked me to meet her on the dorm rooftop. Her face was serious, and in her eyes was something unspeakable. I thought she just wanted to talk about us, but instead, she said words that turned everything upside down. Ethan, you need to know the truth. Lucas isn't who he seems, and neither am I. I'm sorry you're finding out this way. I felt my heart tighten. What do you mean? I whispered. She smiled softly, but in that smile was danger. Everything you know about us, it's all a lie. I never intended to let you stay the same Ethan who first came to this campus. Before I could respond, she vanished into the darkness, leaving me on the rooftop with cold wind and the feeling that the ground beneath me was gone. And at that moment, I realized, in this game, not only my heart but also my mind had been betrayed. And then I saw them, Hailey and Lucas, together on another rooftop, smiling as if playing their own game. And I was just a pawn, moving by their rules. This wasn't an ordinary betrayal. It was a game with a secret I had to uncover, or lose myself forever. I realized I wasn't just betrayed, I had become a player in someone else's game. And the rules weren't written by me. The next morning I woke up with a void I'd never felt before. Coffee in the dorm tasted bitter, like my heart. I tried to focus on lectures, but my thoughts kept returning to that night. To Hailey's green eyes, to her words about the truth I didn't yet know. I tried talking to Lucas. What was that last night? I asked, trying to hide the tremor in my voice. Lucas just smiled, that same easy, carefree smile that always annoyed me. Hey Ethan, you look like you've seen a ghost. Chill, you haven't understood anything yet. I wanted to scream, argue, demand answers, but the words got stuck in my throat. I felt they both knew more than I was allowed to know. And that sense of control over my mind was scarier than any physical pain. Over the next weeks, I noticed how they deliberately stayed close, exchanged hints, looked at me in ways that made me feel like I was under glass. Every smile was a challenge. Try to figure us out, Ethan. And then the worst part began. I started doubting myself. Not just ordinary jealousy, but one that fueled my fears. Did Hailey love me? Was Lucas really my friend? Did I even know who they really were? One evening, I stayed after class in the library, trying to make sense of it. And you know what I found? Hailey's notebook. I never peeked in her things, but something inside screamed, you need to know the truth. There were notes, names, dates, secret meetings, and on one of the pages was my name with a mark that made my heart stop. Ethan, the key. He must learn everything, but not yet. I understood one thing. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a complex game, and I was a pawn. And I decided I would find out the truth, even if it destroyed me completely. I thought I understood people. Now I understand only one thing. I know nothing. The next day, I decided to act. I couldn't remain a victim in someone else's game. My plan was simple. Observe, listen, gather evidence. I started going to all the places Hailey and Lucas spent time together. Cafes, the library, the gym. At first, it seemed normal, just students socializing. But then I noticed the details, brief touches of hands, glances that lingered a second too long. I eavesdropped on their conversation in the cafeteria. Words they didn't notice when I was sitting in the corner. He's starting to suspect. Next step, activate him. Exactly. He should only know part of the truth. Otherwise, everything will collapse too soon. My heart stopped. They were talking about me, as if I were a piece in their plan. I felt anger, fear, and an intense curiosity at the same time. Then I remembered Hailey's notebook. I had to go back to it. My hand shook as I opened the pages. New names, new dates, marks I didn't understand. Every entry felt like a puzzle piece I had to assemble. The worst part was one thing: she left notes seemingly for me. Every phrase was a riddle, and some were a direct challenge. You only see what you want to see. The real game begins where you stop looking for answers. I realized Hailey and Lucas weren't just cheaters, they were masters of a psychological game. And I was already entangled. And the scariest part, I couldn't stop. That same evening, I met Hailey again on the dorm rooftop. Her gaze was cold, yet with a spark I couldn't ignore. She said, "You're on the path. But remember, the more you discover, the more it will hurt. Are you ready?" I didn't know what to answer. But deep down, I understood one thing: I would go to the end, even if it destroys me. I realized I could no longer trust either my heart or my mind. And even what I see could be just part of a bigger lie. The following days were the worst of my life. I wandered like a shadow, observing Hailey and Lucas. And the more I saw, the more questions arose. They seemed like ordinary friends, but there was a tension between them I couldn't decipher. Then, I decided to go to extremes, to check Lucas's room while he was away. I knew it was risky, but my gut told me the truth was there. I carefully opened his desk and found a folder full of photos, notes, and small entries. There were shots from college cameras, schematics of our dorm, and a list of people they were tracking. And among those names was mine. A chill ran down my spine. This was no longer just a game. It was control, and I was the target. That evening, I met Hailey again. She was sitting on the campus steps, holding a coffee, looking at me as if she knew I knew. "Did you find what you were looking for, Ethan?" she asked quietly. I couldn't respond. My mind screamed, "Run, forget, destroy everything." But my heart wouldn't let me move. "It's not what it seems," she added. And in her voice was both truth and danger. I realized Hailey and Lucas were not just my girlfriend and friend. They were part of a game I hadn't yet solved. And if I wanted to survive this psychological trap, I had to act very carefully. I stood there on the steps and understood one thing: to uncover the truth, I would have to risk everything: my feelings, friendships, even my own sanity. I felt my world breaking into pieces, but at the same time realized, without this chaos, I would never know the truth. The next days were the hardest. I constantly watched, noted details, listened to hints, trying to untangle their game. And with every new detail, I saw that Hailey and Lucas knew much more than they let on. One evening, I decided to take a risk and follow them after class. They walked to the old part of campus, where few ventured after sunset. I hid in the shadows, trying not to give myself away. Then I saw them. Not just talking, not joking. They stood close, Hailey holding his hand, Lucas whispering, "He's getting close to the truth. The next step is the most dangerous." My chest tightened. They were planning something against me, and I realized that my trust was shattered forever. But at the same time, I looked at Hailey, eyes full of truth and lies at once. And it was terrifying. She was part of the game, and I couldn't tell if she had ever truly loved me. That evening, I returned to the dorm and opened Hailey's notebook again. There were new entries, secret meetings, hints of her past, and one phrase that made me feel broken: "Ethan will never know everything. Part of the game is to leave him in the dark. And that is his punishment." I realized the love triangle had turned into a trap. And now I faced a choice: continue seeking the truth and risk everything, or retreat and remain alive. But in the darkness of my own disbelief, I realized the game had long gone beyond any rules, and I would either lose or lose myself forever. The next morning, I decided to act without fear. I couldn't remain a mere observer anymore. If this game was going to end with me having at least the truth, maybe not victory, I had to risk everything. I began tracking their movements more systematically, documenting meetings, photographing details, gathering evidence. And finally, I found what I was looking for: Hailey and Lucas's emails, confirming they had planned to draw me into a complex psychological trap long before I discovered their schemes. My heart tightened with pain. I felt betrayed not only in heart but in mind. Everything I had believed to be real turned out to be part of the game. I confronted Hailey that evening. Her gaze was cold, almost merciless. I threw the emails on the table. "You're hiding nothing now, Hailey. I know." She laughed at first, but her laughter quickly faded into seriousness. "You think you know everything, Ethan, but this is only the beginning. And the more you learn, the more it will hurt. I felt the world around me begin to crumble. And then I realized I had lost something important, not just my trust in Hailey, but myself. I felt deceived and betrayed from all sides. Lucas appeared behind me, his smile cold as ice. "You're playing with fire, Ethan. Now you're part of our game, and you can lose everything." I stood between them, realizing that even if I revealed all my cards, it wouldn't bring back the past. And here, I made a crucial decision. I would not let them break me completely. I gathered everything I had found and decided to use it to regain control of my life, even if the cost would be incredibly high. Sometimes, to find yourself, you have to go through pain, betrayal, and chaos, and I was ready to do it. I realized the game had reached its end. All the clues, notes, and photos led me to one truth. Hailey and Lucas were testing me, observing my reactions, pushing the limits of trust and emotion. They weren't just playing with my feelings, they wanted to know who I really was. I gathered everything I had and decided to meet them on the rooftop, the final scene of this game. The wind chilled my face. My heart pounded like a drum. Hailey looked at me with a mixed gaze, guilt, fear, and tenderness all at once. "You've learned the truth, Ethan, but the price." Her voice trembled. Lucas stood beside her, calm and cold. I looked at both of them and felt this game was over. "The price is high," I replied, but I found myself. "I am no longer your pawn in the game." Hailey couldn't hide her tears. She stepped toward me, but I stopped. My love for her remained, but the betrayal and manipulation wouldn't allow a return to the past. I realized one thing: sometimes love doesn't mean possession or control. It's about the strength to let go, even when your heart is breaking. I walked away from the rooftop, leaving them there. For the first time in a long time, I felt freedom. Freedom to be myself, no matter who was around. And although I had lost love, I had found strength, true self. And now no games, betrayals, or psychological traps could ever break me again.